I served an arrogant millionaire man on a plane. The next day, my mother introduced him as her fiancé. Welcome to the channel. Enjoy the video, give it a like, subscribe, turn on notifications, comment and share. Anna Parker smoothed her crisp flight attendant uniform as she strode through the opulent first-class cabin of the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. The soft hum of the engines and the gentle clink of crystal glasses filled the air as wealthy passengers sipped champagne worth hundreds of dollars a bottle. She paused, taking in the luxurious scene before her, plush leather seats that probably cost more than her annual salary, state-of-the-art entertainment systems, and the unmistakable aroma of success and affluence. As she made her way down the aisle, Anna's eyes were drawn to a distinguished-looking man in his late 50s, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit that screamed money. His platinum watch glinted under the cabin lights, likely worth more than most people's cars. She approached him with a professional smile. "Good evening, sir. Would you care for anything to drink before takeoff?" The man looked up from his tablet, his steel-grey eyes appraising her coolly. "I'll have a glass of your finest scotch." "Neat." His voice was deep and commanding. "Accustomed to giving orders and having them obeyed without question?" "Certainly, sir," Anna replied, maintaining her composure. She turned to retrieve the requested drink, feeling the weight of his gaze on her back. As she poured the amber liquid into a crystal tumbler, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was something oddly familiar about him, though she was sure they'd never met before. Returning with the drink, Anna placed it carefully on the man's tray table. "Here you are, sir. Our finest single malt scotch, aged 25 years. Is there anything else I can get for you?" The man took a sip, his expression remaining impassive. "This will do for now," he said dismissively, already turning his attention back to his tablet. Anna nodded and continued her rounds, attending to the other passengers, each seemingly more affluent than the last. As she worked, her mind wandered to her mother, Margaret. It had been months since they'd last spoken, their relationship strained by the passing of Anna's father 2 years ago. The loss had hit them both hard, but in different ways. While Anna had thrown herself into her work, flying around the world and rarely touching down in her hometown, Margaret had withdrawn, becoming a shadow of her former vibrant self. The flight progressed smoothly, the hours ticking by as Anna tended to the needs of the elite travelers. As they began their descent into New York, she couldn't help but feel a twinge of anxiety. This layover would be different. She had finally decided to visit her mother to try and bridge the gap that had grown between them. As the plane touched down at JFK International Airport, Anna's thoughts were interrupted by a commotion in first class. The distinguished man she had served earlier was on his feet, his face flushed with anger as he berated a younger flight attendant. "Do you have any idea who I am?" he snarled, his earlier cool demeanor evaporating. "I could buy and sell this entire airline without breaking a sweat. How dare you tell me to remain seated?" Anna rushed over, placing herself between her colleague and the irate passenger. "Sir, I apologize for any inconvenience, but for safety reasons, all passengers must remain seated until we've come to a complete stop and the seatbelt sign is turned off. It's standard procedure, regardless of financial status." She met his gaze steadily, refusing to be intimidated. For a moment, tension crackled between them. Then, unexpectedly, the man's lips curved into a smirk. Well, it seems there's still some backbone left in the service industry. What's your name, young lady?" "Anna Parker, sir," she replied, her voice calm despite her racing heart. "Anna Parker," he repeated, as if testing the name. "I'll remember that." With a dismissive wave, he returned to his seat, leaving Anna to wonder about the strange encounter. As the passengers disembarked, Anna couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just occurred, though she couldn't quite put her finger on what it was. She completed her post-flight duties in a daze, her mind already jumping ahead to the impending reunion with her mother. An hour later, Anna found herself standing outside her childhood home, a modest 2-story house in a quiet suburb of New York. The paint was peeling in places, and the once manicured lawn was overgrown, silent testaments to her mother's struggle since becoming a widow. Taking a deep breath, Anna rang the doorbell. Moments passed, and just as Anna was considering whether to use her old key, the door swung open. Margaret Parker stood there, her eyes widening in surprise. "Anna, is that really you?" Anna felt a lump form in her throat. Her mother looked older than she remembered, with more grey in her hair and lines around her eyes. But there was a spark there too, something Anna hadn't seen in a long time. "Hi, Mom," she managed, her voice thick with emotion. I thought it was time I came home for a visit." Margaret's face softened, and she pulled her daughter into a tight embrace. "Oh, sweetheart, I've missed you so much." As they hugged, Anna felt years of tension begin to melt away. Maybe, just maybe, they could find their way back to each other. As they separated, Margaret's expression shifted, a mix of excitement and nervousness crossing her features. "Anna, there's someone I want you to meet. He's very special to me." She stepped back, revealing a figure standing in the hallway behind her. Anna's breath caught in her throat. There, looking as imposing as he had on the plane, stood the arrogant first-class passenger she had served just hours ago. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Hello, Anna. Your mother has told me so much about you. I'm David Harris." The world seemed to tilt on its axis as Margaret beamed, linking her arm through David's. "Isn't it wonderful, dear? David and I are engaged." Anna felt as if she had been plunged into icy water. Her mother, engaged to this man. 1,000 questions raced through her mind, but all she could manage was a weak, engaged. But how? When? Margaret's smile faltered slightly. "It all happened rather quickly. David and I met at a charity fundraiser 6 months ago. He's been such a comfort to me, Anna. He's helped me feel alive again." David stepped forward, extending his hand. "I look forward to getting to know you better, Anna. Your mother speaks of you often." His tone was cordial, but there was an undercurrent of something else. Amusement? Challenge? Anna shook his hand automatically, her mind reeling. How could her mother be engaged to a man she'd known for only 6 months? And not just any man, but one who had displayed such arrogance and disdain on the flight. The coincidence seemed too great to be mere chance. As they moved into the living room, Anna's eyes darted around, taking in subtle changes. New, expensive-looking artwork adorned the walls. A sleek laptop sat on the coffee table, a far cry from her mother's old, clunky desktop. And there, on Margaret's left hand, sparkled a diamond ring that must have cost a small fortune. David settled into an armchair, every inch the master of the house. "So, Anna, your mother tells me you're a flight attendant. That must be interesting work." His tone suggested he found it anything but. Anna bristled at his condescension. "It is, actually. I get to travel the world and meet all sorts of people, some more pleasant than others," she added pointedly. Margaret, oblivious to the tension, chatted happily about wedding plans and how David had brought the sparkle back into her life. Anna listened with growing unease. This wasn't the reserved, grief-stricken mother she had left behind. This was someone new, someone influenced by the wealth and charm of a man Anna instinctively distrusted. As the evening wore on, Anna's suspicions deepened. David spoke of his business ventures, each one more grandiose than the last. Tech startups, real estate empires, hedge funds. His portfolio seemed almost too diverse, too perfect. And through it all, Margaret hung on his every word, her eyes shining with admiration. When David excused himself to take a phone call, Anna seized the opportunity to speak to her mother alone. "Mum, don't you think this is all happening a bit fast? You barely know him." Margaret's expression hardened. "I know him well enough, Anna. David makes me happy. Isn't that what you want for me?" "Of course it is." "But no buts," Margaret interrupted. "I've spent 2 years mourning your father. I'm ready to live again, and David gives me that chance. He's successful, generous, and he cares for me. What more could I ask for?" Anna bit her lip, choosing her next words carefully. "I just want to make sure you're being careful. There's something about him that doesn't feel right." Margaret's eyes flashed with anger. "You've been here for less than 2 hours, and you're already judging my choices. David has been nothing but kind and supportive. Just because you're not ready to move on doesn't mean I have to put my life on hold." The harsh words hung in the air between them, reopening old wounds. Anna felt tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. "That's not fair, Mum. I'm just worried about you." Before Margaret could respond, David returned. His phone call concluded. He must have sensed the tension in the room, because he quickly suggested they all go out to dinner. "My treat, of course," he added with a winning smile. "I know a wonderful little place in the city. 5-star cuisine, impeccable service." Margaret's face lit up at the suggestion, her earlier anger forgotten. "Oh, that sounds lovely. Doesn't it, Anna?" Anna nodded numbly, her mind racing. As they prepared to leave, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was watching her mother slip away, seduced by the promise of wealth and excitement that David represented. But there was more to it than that, a nagging sense that David's appearance in their lives was no coincidence. As they climbed into David's luxury sedan, the leather seats soft and supple beneath them, Anna made a silent vow. She would get to the bottom of this, no matter what it took. Her mother's happiness, and perhaps her very safety, depended on it. The car purred to life, and as they pulled away from the curb, Anna caught David's eye in the rearview mirror. For a split second, his mask slipped, and she saw something cold and calculating in his gaze. Then it was gone, replaced by his usual charming smile. The game, Anna realized, had only just begun. The sleek black sedan glided through the streets of New York, its tinted windows shielding the occupants from the curious gazes of pedestrians. Anna sat in the back, her mind whirling with questions and suspicions. She watched as her mother, Margaret, leaned in close to David, hanging on his every word as he pointed out landmarks and shared anecdotes about his business deals in various skyscrapers they passed. "You see that building there?" David's voice oozed confidence as he gestured towards a gleaming tower of glass and steel. "It closed a deal worth $50 million in the penthouse suite last year. The champagne we drank afterward cost more than most people's monthly salary." He chuckled, a sound that sent a chill down Anna's spine. Margaret gasped in awe. "Oh, David, you're so successful. I can hardly believe sometimes that you chose me." Anna fought the urge to roll her eyes. Instead, she leaned forward, injecting herself into the conversation. "That's quite impressive, David. What exactly is it that you do?" Mom wasn't very clear on the details. David's eyes met hers in the rearview mirror, a flash of something, annoyance, challenge, crossing his face before his practiced smile returned. "Oh, a bit of this, a bit of that. I like to keep my portfolio diverse. Real estate, tech startups, some venture capital work. The key to success is never putting all your eggs in one basket. Wouldn't you agree?" Before Anna could press further, they pulled up to a restaurant that screamed exclusivity. A valet rushed to open their doors, and David handed over the keys with a casual flip and a $100 bill as a tip. The maitre d' greeted David by name, ushering them past a line of waiting patrons to a secluded table with a stunning view of the city skyline. Anna couldn't help but notice the envious glances from other diners, the whispers that followed in their wake. As they settled into their seats, a waiter appeared as if by magic, presenting them with leather-bound menus and a wine list thicker than some novels Anna had read. David waved the wine list away. "We'll have the Chateau Margaux 1982, he said without hesitation. "I trust you have it in stock." The waiter's eyes widened slightly. "Of course, sir. An excellent choice." As the waiter hurried away, Anna's curiosity got the better of her. "That must be quite a special wine," she remarked casually. David's lips curled into a smirk. "Only about $10,000 a bottle, but then life's too short to drink cheap wine. Wouldn't you agree, Margaret?" Margaret nodded enthusiastically, though Anna suspected her mother had no idea about wine prices. She felt a pang of sadness, remembering how her father used to save up to buy a $30 bottle for special occasions. The evening progressed in a blur of exquisite dishes and flowing conversation, most of it dominated by David's tales of business triumphs and brushes with celebrities. Anna observed, noting how her mother seemed to hang on every word, how her eyes shone with admiration. Or was it infatuation? During a lull in the conversation, while Margaret excused herself to the ladies' room, Anna seized the opportunity to speak to David alone. "So, David," she began, her tone carefully neutral, "how did you and my mother meet?" "She mentioned a charity event." David swirled the remnants of the obscenely expensive wine in his glass. "Ah, yes, the Millionaire's Ball for Children's Education. Your mother was volunteering, looking absolutely radiant. I knew from the moment I saw her that she was special." Anna leaned in, her voice low, and the fact that she was recently widowed, potentially vulnerable, had nothing to do with it. David's eyes hardened, though his smile remained fixed in place. "I'm not sure I like what you're implying, Anna. Your mother is a grown woman, capable of making her own decisions, and I assure you my intentions are entirely honorable." "Are they?" Anna pressed. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks an awful lot like you're using your wealth to dazzle a grieving woman." David's response was cut short by Margaret's return. As her mother settled back into her seat, Anna noticed a slight tremor in Margaret's hands, a faint sheen of sweat on her brow. "Mom, are you feeling all right?" Margaret waved off her concern. "Oh, I'm fine, dear. Just a bit warm in here, that's all." David immediately signaled for a waiter. "Could we get some water for the lady? And perhaps you could adjust the air conditioning?" As the waiter rushed to comply, Anna couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Her mother's sudden pallor, the slight slur in her speech that hadn't been there before, it all added up to a picture that set alarm bells ringing in Anna's head. The rest of the evening passed in a haze of forced smiles and stilted conversation. By the time they left the restaurant, Margaret was leaning heavily on David's arm, her steps unsteady. Anna watched with growing concern as David helped her mother into the car, his solicitous behavior at odds with the cold calculation she'd glimpsed in his eyes. As they drove back to the house, Anna's mind raced. There was more going on here than a whirlwind romance between a wealthy businessman and a lonely widow. But what? And how could she prove it? Back at the house, David insisted on helping Margaret to bed. "You look exhausted, my dear," he cooed, his voice dripping with concern. "Let's get you comfortable." Anna watched them disappear upstairs, her fists clenched at her sides. When David returned, his face was a mask of sympathy. "Poor Margaret. I think the excitement of the evening was a bit much for her. She's resting now." "I'm sure she is," Anna replied, unable to keep the edge from her voice. "David, I think we need to talk." He raised an eyebrow, the picture of innocence. "Oh, what about—" Anna took a deep breath, steeling herself. "About your sudden appearance in my mother's life. About your intentions. About the way she seemed fine until she went to the restroom at the restaurant." David's demeanor changed in an instant. The charming smile vanished, replaced by a cold, hard stare. "I'd be very careful if I were you, Anna. You're making accusations you can't possibly substantiate." "Am I?" Anna shot back. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're manipulating my mother, and I want to know why." David stepped closer, his voice low and menacing. "What I do or do not do with Margaret is none of your concern. She's happy. She's taken care of. Isn't that what matters?" Anna stood her ground. "What matters is the truth, and I promise you, I will find out what you're up to." A tense silence stretched between them. Finally, David's lips curved into a humorless smile. "Well, well, you're not as naive as I thought. But trust me, Anna, you're out of your depth. Go back to your little job, serving drinks to people like me. Leave the real world to those who know how to navigate it." With that, he turned on his heel and headed upstairs, leaving Anna alone in the living room, her heart pounding and her mind reeling. As the house settled into silence, Anna pulled out her phone. Her fingers hovered over the screen for a moment before she made a decision. She scrolled through her contacts and hit dial. "James? It's Anna. I need your help. How quickly can you run a background check on someone?" As she spoke in hushed tones, explaining the situation to her old friend, now a private investigator, Anna's resolve hardened. She would uncover the truth about David Harris, no matter the cost. Her mother's life might depend on it. Upstairs, unbeknownst to Anna, David stood at the window, watching the street below with narrowed eyes. He pulled out a sleek, expensive phone and dialed a number from memory. "We may have a problem," he said softly. "The daughter is more perceptive than we anticipated." Yes, I understand. I'll handle it." As he ended the call, David's gaze drifted to the closed door of Margaret's bedroom. A cold smile played across his lips. "Oh, Anna," he murmured, "you have no idea what you're getting into." The stage was set. The players were in motion, and the true nature of David's plan, hidden beneath layers of charm and wealth, was about to unravel in ways none of them could have predicted. The next morning dawned grey and overcast, mirroring Anna's mood as she sat at the kitchen table, nursing a cup of strong coffee. She had barely slept, her mind racing with questions and theories about David's true motives. The sound of footsteps on the stairs made her look up, expecting to see her mother. Instead, David appeared, impeccably dressed in a suit that probably cost more than Anna made in a month. "Good morning, Anna," he said smoothly, helping himself to coffee. "I trust you slept well." Anna forced a neutral expression. "Well enough," How's my mother this morning? David's smile never wavered. Still resting. Poor dear. She's not as young as she used to be. These late nights can be quite taxing. Before Anna could respond, her phone buzzed with a text. It was from James. Got some info. Call ASAP. Excuse me, Anna said, standing abruptly. I need to take this. She stepped out onto the back porch, her heart racing as she dialed James's number. What did you find? She asked without preamble. James's voice was tense. Anna, this guy is bad news. David Harris isn't his real name. He's gone by at least 3 other aliases in the past decade. There are multiple complaints against him for fraud and embezzlement, but nothing that ever stuck. He's slippery. Anna's grip tightened on the phone. What about his businesses? The millions he claims to have. Smoke and mirrors, James replied. He's good at creating the illusion of wealth, borrows expensive cars, rents luxury apartments for short periods, always has just enough cash to flash around. But from what I can tell, he's deep in debt. Anna, I think he's after your mother's money. The pieces started falling into place. The life insurance payout from Dad's death, Anna breathed. It was substantial. Mom never touched it. Bingo, James confirmed. Look, there's more. I found a pattern. Harris, or whatever his real name is, he targets wealthy widows, sweeps them off their feet, marries them, and then, Anna, 2 of his previous wives died under suspicious circumstances. The cases were never solved. Anna felt the blood drain from her face. Oh my God. James, what do I do? Gather evidence, he advised. I'll keep digging. But be careful, Anna. This guy is dangerous. As Anna ended the call, she turned to find David standing in the doorway, his expression unreadable. Important call, he asked casually. Anna's mind raced. How much had he heard? She forced a smile. Just work stuff. You know how it is. David nodded, but his eyes were cold. Indeed. Well, I have some business to attend to in the city. Give Margaret my love when she wakes up, will you? As he left, Anna's resolve strengthened. She had to find proof, had to convince her mother of the danger she was in. But how? Anna spent the next few hours scouring the house while her mother slept, looking for anything that might shed light on David's true nature. In her mother's study, she found a stack of financial documents. As she flipped through them, her heart sank. There were transfer orders, moving large sums of money from her mother's accounts to offshore holdings. A noise from the doorway made her jump. Margaret stood there, looking pale and confused. Anna, what are you doing? Anna took a deep breath. Mum, we need to talk. It's about David. What followed was one of the most difficult conversations of Anna's life. She laid out everything she had learned, showing her mother the financial documents, explaining James's findings. Margaret listened in stunned silence, her face a mask of disbelief and growing horror. No, Margaret whispered when Anna finished. No, it can't be true. David loves me. He wants to take care of me. Anna took her mother's hands. Mom, I know this is hard to hear, but think about it. How well do you really know him? How much has he told you about his past, his family? Doubt flickered in Margaret's eyes. He said his family was all gone, that he was alone until he met me, and the money you've been transferring to him. Margaret's face crumpled. He said it was for our future, investments for our life together. As reality set in, Margaret began to shake. Anna held her mother as she sobbed, years of grief and loneliness pouring out. I just wanted to feel alive again, Margaret choked out. To feel like someone cared. I know, Mom, Anna soothed. I know, but we need to act fast. We need to stop those transfers and... The sound of the front door opening cut her off. David's voice rang out. Margaret! Anna! I'm back early. Where is everyone? Anna's blood ran cold. She quickly gathered the documents, shoving them into her bag. Mom, she whispered urgently. No matter what, don't let on that we know. We need time to plan. Margaret nodded, hastily wiping her eyes as David's footsteps approached. He appeared in the doorway, his smile faltering slightly as he took in the scene. Is everything all right? Margaret forced a watery smile. Oh, yes. Just having a bit of a mother-daughter moment. You know how emotional I can get. David's eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly, but his charming demeanor quickly reasserted itself. Of course, darling. Why don't you freshen up? I thought we could all go out for a nice lunch. As Margaret excused herself, David turned to Anna. The mask slipped just for a moment, and Anna saw the calculating predator beneath. "I hope you're not filling your mother's head with any unfortunate ideas." Anna met his gaze steadily. "I'm just looking out for her best interests, as any daughter would." "Of course," David replied smoothly. "As am I. It would be a shame if anything were to disrupt our happy little family, wouldn't it?" The threat was clear. Anna felt a chill run down her spine, but she refused to be intimidated. "Absolutely," she said, matching his tone. "It's all about family, after all." As they stood there, locked in a silent battle of wills, Anna realized that the true fight was just beginning. David was cornered, and a cornered predator was the most dangerous kind. She needed to be smart, to outmaneuver him at his own game. Over the next few days, a tense dance played out in the Parker household. Anna and Margaret put on a show of normalcy, all while secretly working to secure Margaret's assets and gather evidence against David. Anna enlisted James's help, setting up hidden cameras and recording devices throughout the house. David, for his part, seemed to sense that something was amiss. His charm offensive went into overdrive, showering Margaret with attention and lavish gifts. But Anna caught the calculating looks, the moments when his mask slipped, revealing the cold, hard eyes of a man who knew his scheme was in jeopardy. The breaking point came on a rainy Thursday evening. Anna returned from a meeting with James to find the house eerily quiet. "Mom?" she called out, her heart racing. "David?" She found them in the living room. David stood by the fireplace, a glass of scotch in his hand. Margaret sat on the sofa, her face pale, a small suitcase at her feet. "Ah, Anna," David said, his voice dripping with false warmth. "So glad you could join us. Your mother and I were just discussing a little getaway, a pre-wedding trip, if you will." Anna's eyes darted to her mother, seeing the fear poorly hidden behind a forced smile. "Really? That's sudden," David shrugged. "Well, you know what they say. Carpe diem and all that. We've got a private jet waiting. Very exclusive resort in the Cayman Islands. Should be back in, a week or two." Anna's mind raced. The Cayman Islands, known for their strict banking secrecy laws. If David got her mother there... "Actually," Anna said, thinking quickly, "so I have a bit of a surprise myself." She pulled out her phone, dialing a number. "I think you'll want to hear this, David. Or should I say, Michael Thornton? Or is it Richard Dawson? I always get your aliases mixed up." David's face drained of color. "What are you talking about?" Anna put the phone on speaker. James's voice filled the room. "NYPD, we have the house surrounded. Come out with your hands up." For a moment, the room was frozen in tableau. Then David lunged for Margaret, grabbing her arm. "You're coming with me," he snarled, all pretense of charm gone. But Anna was quicker. She grabbed the heavy crystal decanter from the bar cart and swung it with all her might. It connected with David's head with a sickening thud, and he crumpled to the floor. As the sound of sirens filled the air, Anna hugged her shaking mother close. "It's over, Mum," she whispered. "It's really over." In the days that followed, the full extent of David's crimes came to light. The trail of broken hearts and emptied bank accounts stretched across multiple states. Margaret, though shaken, found strength she didn't know she had, testifying against the man who had nearly destroyed her life. As for Anna, she took a leave of absence from her job, focusing on helping her mother heal and rebuild. The ordeal had brought them closer than ever, mending the rift that had grown between them since her father's death. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Margaret turned to her daughter with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she said softly, "for saving me, for not giving up on me." Anna squeezed her mother's hand. "That's what family does, Mum. We look out for each other." As the golden light faded to dusk, both women felt a sense of peace settle over them. The future was uncertain, but they would face it together, stronger for having weathered the storm. And somewhere in the city, in a high-security cell, David Harris sat alone. His empire of lies finally crumbled to dust. The weeks following David's arrest were a whirlwind of police interviews, legal consultations, and emotional upheaval. Anna took an extended leave from her job as a flight attendant, determined to stand by her mother's side through the ordeal. The Parker house, once a haven of memories, now felt tainted by David's deception. Every corner seemed to hold a reminder of his presence, of the lies that had almost torn their family apart. One crisp autumn morning, as Anna sifted through a mountain of paperwork at the kitchen table, she heard a soft knock at the door. Opening it, she found herself face to face with a woman she didn't recognize, elegant, in her early 60s, with a haunted look in her eyes that Anna found all too familiar. "Can I help you?" Anna asked, curiosity piqued. The woman wrung her hands nervously. "I'm looking for Margaret Parker. My name is Elizabeth Cartwright. I read about what happened with David Harris in the papers. I think we need to talk." Anna's heart raced as she ushered Elizabeth inside. Could this be another of David's victims? As they settled in the living room, Margaret joined them, her face a mix of confusion and apprehension. Elizabeth took a deep breath. "I was married to David 5 years ago. Or rather, I was married to the man he was pretending to be then, Robert Sinclair, a charming widower with a tragic past and a seemingly bright future." Margaret gasped softly, reaching for Anna's hand. Elizabeth continued, her voice growing stronger. "He nearly destroyed me. Financially, emotionally, I lost everything. My home, my savings, my self-respect. When I finally realized what was happening and confronted him, he disappeared, vanished like smoke." As Elizabeth shared her story, Anna felt a mix of emotions: anger at David's repeated cruelty, relief that they had stopped him, and a growing sense of purpose. This woman's pain, her mother's near miss, how many others had suffered? How many more might fall victim to men like David if someone didn't take a stand? Over the next few hours, fueled by countless cups of coffee and a shared sense of injustice, the three women talked. Elizabeth had spent years trying to rebuild her life, always looking over her shoulder, afraid that Robert might return. When she saw the news about David's arrest, she knew she had to come forward. "There might be others," Elizabeth said, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Other women he's hurt, other lives he's destroyed. Someone needs to find them to let them know they're not alone." As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the living room, Anna felt a spark of inspiration. "What if we did more than just find them?" she said slowly, her mind racing. "What if we created a network, a support system for victims of con men like David, a way to share information, to help each other heal and rebuild?" Margaret's face lit up for the first time in weeks. "Oh, Anna, that's a wonderful idea. We could use my experience in social work, your organizational skills, and my legal knowledge," Elizabeth chimed in, a spark of hope in her eyes. "I've learned more about financial fraud and victims' rights in the past few years than I ever wanted to know. We could put that to good use." As the three women excitedly discussed possibilities, Anna felt a sense of purpose settling over her. This was bigger than just their personal experience. This was a chance to turn their pain into something positive, to protect others from falling into the same trap. Over the next few months, the Phoenix Network took shape. Named for the mythical bird that rises from the ashes, it started small, just a website and a support group meeting in the Parkers' living room. But word spread quickly. Women and some men from all walks of life, all with stories of betrayal and financial ruin at the hands of charming con artists, began to reach out. Anna threw herself into the work, using her savings and her natural charisma to build the network. She spoke at community centers, collaborated with law enforcement, and tirelessly advocated for stronger protections for vulnerable individuals. Margaret, rediscovering her passion for helping others, became the heart of the organization, offering counseling and emotional support to those still reeling from their experiences. As the Phoenix Network grew, so did its impact. They helped reunite families torn apart by shame and secrecy. They worked with financial institutions to develop better fraud detection systems. They even started a scholarship fund for children whose parents had lost everything to con artists, ensuring that the cycle of victimization wouldn't continue to the next generation. 1 year after David's arrest, Anna stood at a podium in a packed conference hall, addressing a crowd of survivors, advocates, and law enforcement officials. As she looked out at the sea of faces, some broken, some healing, all determined, she felt a surge of pride and purpose. "We are not defined by what was done to us," she said, her voice strong and clear. "We are defined by how we rise, how we rebuild, and how we reach out to others. Each of you here today is a phoenix, rising from the ashes of betrayal to create something beautiful and strong." As applause filled the room, Anna caught her mother's eye in the front row. Margaret beamed with pride, and Anna felt a warmth spread through her chest. They had turned their nightmare into a mission, their pain into purpose. But even as the Phoenix Network celebrated its successes, new challenges loomed on the horizon. The world of con artists and financial predators was evolving, becoming more sophisticated in the digital age. Anna and her team would need to stay one step ahead, constantly adapting their strategies to protect the vulnerable. As the conference wound down, Anna's phone buzzed with a message from James, her old friend and now a key ally in their work. Got a lead on a new case. Big fish. Might be connected to Harris. Can you meet tomorrow? Anna's pulse quickened. Even as they helped others heal, the quest for justice continued. David Harris might be behind bars, but his network, his co-conspirators, they were still out there. And Anna was more determined than ever to bring them down. She typed a quick reply. I'm in. Send me the details. As she pocketed her phone and turned to greet the line of people waiting to speak with her, Anna felt a familiar mix of excitement and trepidation. The work was far from over, but with every life they touched, every survivor they empowered, they were making a difference. They were turning victims into victors, one phoenix at a time. The next chapter of their journey was just beginning, and Anna Parker, once a simple flight attendant, now a beacon of hope for countless others, was ready to soar. The sleek, modern office of the Phoenix Network hummed with activity as Anna strode through the open workspace. Volunteers and staff members worked tirelessly, answering calls, updating databases, and coordinating support efforts. It was a far cry from the small operation that had started in her mother's living room just a year ago. Anna made her way to the conference room where James was waiting, his usually cheerful face uncharacteristically serious. As she closed the door behind her, he pushed a thick file across the table. Meet Viktor Kovalev, James said, tapping the file. Russian-born, naturalized American citizen. On paper, he's a successful real estate mogul with properties across 3 continents. In reality, he's the puppet master behind a dozen identity theft and romance scam operations. Anna's eyes widened as she flipped through the file. And you think he's connected to David? James nodded grimly. David was just a small fish in a very big, very dangerous pond. Kovalev's organization recruits con artists like him, provides them with resources, false identities, even plastic surgery when needed. They're not just after lonely widows anymore, Anna. They're targeting corporations, pension funds, even some smaller countries, national banks. A chill ran down Anna's spine as she absorbed the implications. How did you get all this information? Remember Sandra, the cybersecurity expert who volunteers with us. She's been tracking some suspicious financial transactions, led us right to Kovalev's doorstep. James leaned forward, his voice low. But here's the kicker. We think Kovalev knows we're onto him. There have been some incidents. What kind of incidents? Anna asked, a knot forming in her stomach. Break-ins at some of our satellite offices, phishing attempts on our databases, and yesterday Elizabeth's car brakes failed. Could be a coincidence, but Anna's blood ran cold. Is she okay? Shaken up, but fine. Look, Anna, I hate to say this, but you need to be careful. You're the face of the Phoenix Network now. If they decide to make an example of someone— Anna set her jaw, a fierce determination burning in her eyes. I won't be intimidated, James. We've come too far, helped too many people. If Kovalev wants a fight, we'll give him one. Over the next few weeks, Anna threw herself into the investigation with renewed vigor. The Phoenix Network partnered with law enforcement agencies across the globe, sharing information and resources. Anna's experience as a flight attendant proved invaluable as she traversed time zones, meeting with financial crime experts, government officials, and other advocacy groups. But as they dug deeper into Kovalev's empire, the danger grew. Anna noticed strange cars parked outside her apartment, felt eyes on her in crowded streets. One night, she returned home to find her place ransacked, a chilling message left on her mirror in red lipstick. Stop now, or the next time we won't be so gentle. Despite the threats, Anna refused to back down. She increased security measures for herself and key members of the organization, but continued to push forward with their plans to expose Kovalev's network. The breakthrough came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Sandra burst into Anna's office, her face flushed with excitement. "We got him!" she exclaimed, waving a USB drive. Kovalev's entire operation, client lists, bank accounts, everything. It was hidden behind some serious encryption, but I cracked it. Anna's heart raced as she realized the implications. "This is amazing, Sandra. We need to get this to the FBI immediately." With this evidence, the sound of breaking glass and screams from the main office cut her off. Anna's blood ran cold as she heard a voice bark out, "Nobody move! Where's Anna Parker?" Time seemed to slow down. Anna's mind raced through their security protocols, the evacuation plans they had drilled countless times. She locked eyes with Sandra, who clutched the USB drive protectively. "The safe room," Anna whispered urgently. "Go, now, I'll distract them." Before Sandra could protest, Anna was moving. She slipped out of her office and into the chaos of the main workspace. Men in dark clothes were herding her terrified staff into a corner. At their center stood a tall, distinguished-looking man with silver hair and cold, calculating eyes, Viktor Kovalev. "Mr. Kovalev," Anna called out, her voice steadier than she felt. "I believe you're looking for me." Kovalev turned, a predatory smile spreading across his face. "Miss Parker, I've been looking forward to meeting you. You've caused me quite a bit of trouble, you know." "The feeling's mutual," Anna replied, her mind working furiously to buy time. "Where were the police? Surely someone had triggered the silent alarm by now." Kovalev chuckled, but there was no warmth in the sound. "You're either very brave or very foolish, Miss Parker. Did you really think you could take on an organization like mine and walk away unscathed?" Anna's eyes darted around the room, looking for anything she could use as a weapon, any advantage. "I think you'll find we're not as easily intimidated as you might hope. Mr. Kovalev, the Phoenix Network isn't just me. It's thousands of survivors, advocates, law enforcement officers. You can't silence us all." For a moment, uncertainty flickered in Kovalev's eyes. Then his face hardened. "Perhaps not, but I can certainly start with you." He nodded to one of his men, who raised a gun. Anna's heart hammered in her chest. This was it. After everything they'd been through, everything they'd accomplished, it was going to end here. Suddenly, the room erupted into chaos. The windows exploded inward as armed police officers rappelled into the office. Smoke grenades went off, filling the air with thick, disorienting clouds. In the confusion, Anna felt a hand grab her arm. She turned, ready to fight, only to find James at her side. "Come on!" he shouted over the din. "We need to get you out of here." As they ran for the emergency exit, Anna heard Kovalev's enraged roar behind them. Gunshots rang out, bullets whizzing past her head, but then they were through the door and down the stairs, emerging into the rainy street where more police officers waited. Hours later, as the adrenaline finally began to wear off, Anna sat wrapped in a shock blanket, watching as Kovalev and his men were led away in handcuffs. The evidence Sandra had uncovered, combined with the attempted attack on the Phoenix Network offices, was more than enough to bring down the entire operation. As dawn broke over the city, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, Anna felt a profound sense of relief and accomplishment wash over her. They had done it. They had faced down one of the most dangerous financial criminals in the world and emerged victorious. But even as she celebrated this win, Anna knew their work was far from over. Kovalev's organization was just one of many. There would always be those who preyed on the vulnerable, who used charm and lies to steal not just money, but hope. As reporters began to gather, clamoring for a statement, Anna stood up straight, squared her shoulders, and stepped forward. The Phoenix Network had faced its greatest challenge and risen from the ashes once again, and she was ready to tell their story to the world. The aftermath of Kovalev's arrest sent shockwaves through the world of international finance and law enforcement. As the dust settled, Anna found herself thrust into the global spotlight. News outlets clamored for interviews, government agencies sought her expertise, and survivors from around the world reached out with messages of gratitude and support. 6 months after that fateful night, Anna stood before a packed auditorium at an international conference on financial crimes. The audience was a mix of law enforcement officials, financial regulators, and advocates from organizations similar to the Phoenix Network. As she took her place at the podium, Anna felt the weight of expectation on her shoulders, but also a surge of determination. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice clear and strong, "the takedown of Viktor Kovalev's organization was not just a victory for the Phoenix Network. It was a victory for every person who has ever fallen victim to financial fraud, for every family torn apart by deception, for every community damaged by the ripple effects of these crimes. As she spoke, Anna's mind drifted to the journey that had brought her here. From the young flight attendant who had stumbled upon her mother's peril to the leader of an international advocacy group, she had transformed in ways she never could have imagined. But our work is far from over, Anna continued, her passion evident in every word. For every Kovalev we bring down, there are dozens more waiting to take his place. The methods of these criminals evolve constantly, becoming more sophisticated, more insidious. We must evolve too. She outlined the Phoenix Network's plans for the future: expanded education programs, partnerships with tech companies to develop better fraud detection algorithms, and a push for stronger international cooperation in prosecuting financial crimes. We stand at a crossroads, Anna declared, her eyes scanning the rapt audience. We can choose to see financial crimes as an inevitable part of our world, collateral damage in the pursuit of wealth. Or we can choose to fight back, to protect the vulnerable, to demand a system that values people over profit. As she concluded her speech to thunderous applause, Anna felt a sense of purpose stronger than ever before. This was her calling, her way of turning personal pain into universal good. After the conference, as Anna was gathering her things, she was approached by a distinguished-looking woman in her 60s. "Ms. Parker," the woman said, extending her hand. "I'm Senator Eleanor Hayes. I was incredibly moved by your speech and the work you're doing." Anna shook the senator's hand, recognizing her as a powerful voice in financial regulation. "Thank you, Senator. It's an honor to meet you." "The honor is mine," Senator Hayes replied. "I've been working on a bill to strengthen protections against financial fraud, particularly targeting vulnerable populations like the elderly. After hearing you speak, I'm convinced that we need voices like yours in Washington. Would you be interested in testifying before the Senate Banking Committee?" Anna's heart raced at the opportunity. This could be a chance to effect change at the highest levels of government. "I would be honored, Senator," she said, her mind already whirling with possibilities. As she left the conference center, Anna's phone buzzed with a message from her mother. "Saw you on the news, sweetheart. Your father would be so proud. I know I am." Tears pricked at Anna's eyes as she read the message. Her relationship with her mother had been transformed through their shared ordeal and subsequent mission. They had become not just family, but partners in a cause greater than themselves. Over the next year, the Phoenix Network continued to grow and evolve. Anna divided her time between running the organization, advising law enforcement agencies, and pushing for legislative change. She testified before Congress, met with international leaders, and never stopped sharing the stories of survivors. But perhaps the most profound changes were the personal ones. Anna watched as her mother Margaret blossomed, turning her experiences into strength as she counseled other survivors. She saw Elizabeth Cartwright, once broken by betrayal, become a fierce advocate for victims' rights, and James, her steadfast friend through it all, became something more, a partner in every sense of the word. On a warm summer evening, 5 years to the day since David Harris had first entered their lives, Anna stood on the balcony of the Phoenix Network's new headquarters. The sun was setting over the city, painting the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink. Below her, the streets bustled with life, people going about their days, unaware of the battles being fought on their behalf. As she looked out over the city, Anna reflected on the journey that had brought her here. The pain, the fear, the moments of doubt, they had all led to this. She thought of all the lives touched by their work, all the potential victims who would now be spared the anguish of betrayal. A soft knock at the door interrupted her reverie. She turned to see James, a gentle smile on his face. "Ready to go. Everyone's waiting." Anna nodded, taking one last look at the sunset before following James inside. In the main conference room, she found a gathering of familiar faces. Her mother, Elizabeth, Sandra, and dozens of other team members and survivors who had become like family. As she looked around at the smiling faces, at the bonds forged through shared struggle and triumph, Anna felt a profound sense of gratitude. This was more than just an organization, it was a movement, a family, a force for good in a world that so often seemed dark. Raising a glass, Anna offered a toast To all of you, to every survivor out there and to the battles yet to come, we are the phoenix rising from the ashes, and together we will continue to soar. As the room erupted in cheers and applause, Anna knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The Phoenix Network had started as one woman's quest to save her mother, but it had become so much more, a beacon of hope, a force for justice, and a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. And as for Anna Parker, once a simple flight attendant who had stumbled into an extraordinary journey, she had found her true calling, her purpose. In the face of greed and deception, she had discovered the power of compassion and truth, and in helping others rise from the ashes of betrayal, she had found her own wings. The adventure wasn't over. In many ways, it was just beginning. But whatever the future held, Anna knew one thing for certain: they would face it together, stronger than ever, ready to rise and soar once more.